Hi everyone, a very warm welcome back to the MEC-TEC garage. We're back on the chassis on Project Plonker today, and we're going to hopefully get a load more jobs done to be able to put the shell back on. That is the plan. So I'm not sure what order we're going to be doing things in, but there are a few more jobs I want to do before that goes back on, just to make my life a little bit easier. Now unfortunately it's going to start off with me going backwards, because having done the clutch on the trotter van, the other trotter van, I think in my gearbox I've put the input or output shaft seal on the wrong way around. Which I thought about. I checked my old videos, everything else, and I'm pretty sure I put it on the wrong way. So whilst the body's off, thankfully it's a lot easier to undo that gearbox and have a quick look. Does mean I'm going to have to make a new gasket for that plate inside. So what I'm going to do first of all is whip off the one end of the prop shaft, get the gearbox back out, put the engine underneath obviously, and just take that inside seal off or plate off and make sure the seal is running the right way. I don't want to do all this work and then it start leaking as soon as I start using it. So that is probably going to be the first job. So unfortunately it's a bit of repetition going backwards, but it's one of them things unfortunately. So let's crack on and get that done, because I hate doing things twice. It really winds me up. So let's get it done quick and then we can crack on with the rest of the jobs. Right, I saved you the boredom of watching me take all the gearbox back out again, because obviously you've seen that about a billion times now. Now some numpty in your infinite wisdom, me, sealed this on, so I'm not actually sure how I'm going to get it off at the moment, because not only did I put a new gasket on it, I also RTV'd it so it wouldn't leak, and that has now come to bite me for doing such a thorough job, because it means I can't get the damn thing off. So at the moment I'm sort of just trying to can't get anything behind it. That's the problem. I can get a screwdriver through there. It's alley, so I want to be careful. God, won't move. So this is a predicament I'm in at the moment. Quite sure how I'm going to get that off yet, so I'm going to work on this, and I won't take it off all the way. I'll take it off on camera, but I just want to get it loose, and then I'll come back to you so we can see if I actually put this on around the right way or not. Right, I've got it moving. I've come back to you before I've got it all the way off, just so you can prove that I've not looked at it yet. I've using this crow's foot spanner, a crow's foot crowbar I should say, and gradually I've been able to get it to move gently upwards, but you've got to do it carefully because I don't want to knacker the threads on these studs. It's quite fiddly. It definitely weren't going to leak, put it that way, which is obviously the intention, so I will do it again, but for whoever who's got to take it off next, which is probably going to be me anyway, it's not ideal. But still, it didn't take too long. I thought it was going to take a lot longer, to be honest. Right, see if I put this around the wrong way, or all this has been for nothing. Yep, sure enough, I've put it around the wrong way, so that's good that I've taken this back off. I thought I had. You can hopefully see in the middle there, let me zoom you in, I've put the chamfered side outwards, and actually the chamfered side is supposed to go inwards and the flat side is supposed to seal against the inside of this case here. So I'm pleased that I've done it and got it back apart to sort this out. I need a little bit of WD-40 on that just to slide that off. 2 seconds. At least all this hasn't been for nothing, because I was worried I was going to do it and it'd either, well, I was worried if I didn't do it it'd be wrong, which obviously it is, and if I did do it it would be right, and then I'd be wasting my time. But I had to find out either way, because otherwise I'd always be wondering. So it's not a bad thing. So there we go, that's sliding back off there now. Now this, hopefully you can see it on camera, this side with the little flappy side on is the side that seals against the inside of here. It pushes against it to create a seal. Hopefully you can see that in there. So I am going to get all this cleaned up again now. I'm going to make another new gasket for this, seal it back on again, get this one ran the right way this time, and then we'll get it all put back in the gearbox and we can carry on with the other jobs that need to get done before we can put the body on. Let's carry on. Right, there we go. That is all back together like it never happened. The only difference being I've used a different colour sealer this time, but I've not put on anywhere near as much, so if I do have to take it off again, hopefully it won't be as tricky to get off. It wasn't too bad, but I just didn't want to obviously have the same problem again, having to try and lever it off. So anyway, it's all done. The seal's ran the right way this time, fingers crossed. So I need to get this back in the chassis, and then we can move on to more interesting jobs that I haven't actually done already yet. Let's carry on. Right, there we go. That is all back in. I haven't filmed any of this going in and out because obviously you've seen it all before, and it's repetition basically, and I just wanted to get it done. So that part is now correct, hopefully. Now we can move on to other jobs. Now another job which I have got to kind of redo, which I didn't do on camera initially, is these brakes. You can see they're actually in the wrong orientation. They need to go round that way, one bolt hole, I think. Although the Regal restoration manual shows them like this, which is what I copied, my old mate Dan has seen several vans, and the other two vans that we've worked on and his own van have all got the rear brakes in the different orientation. So I'm gonna get the back up in here, I think, get the wheels off, turn them round, because this is a job I've been putting off because, again, I don't like doing things twice. Once it's done, I like to get it done and leave it, you know. So I want to buzz them wheels off, turn them round so they're the right orientation. I may have to tweak the brake pipe slightly because I'm not sure. Obviously I've made that rear brake pipe to fit how it is now, so I don't know how it's going to fit when I move them round. So we'll see on that side of things whether we've got to make a new one or whether we can just tweak that one to make it fit. And I think then we can get the fuel sender in, and then we can get the fuel line made. I've got some slightly bigger pipe. I forget what size it is now. I'll find it in a minute and I'll show you. Same copra nickel pipe as the brake pipe, and I'm going to run it along the same side. And I've got some clips to go in the chassis. I'm going to have to drill holes in the chassis, but still can't do much about that. So we'll put a little bit of paint in the holes, and obviously maybe a little bit of seal around the clip so that it doesn't rust. And that should look nice because it'll have two lines exactly the same then, matching each other. I know it's a bit sad, but I'm a bit sad, so I don't care. So I'm going to get the back up in here, as I said, and I'll show you what we're going to do with that. Rightio, with the rear wheel off, you can see obviously I've got the drum off as well. These have all been rebuilt. Now this all got done before I started a YouTube channel, which is why you never saw it. As you can see, it's all brand new inside. Now the 4 bolts I've got to get to are behind here, so I think I'm going to have to try and take this end plate back off again. It's a bit of a pain, because what I need to do is rotate the whole back plate clockwise, because this cylinder, I thought it should have been at the top, but it should be actually down the back there to allow the brake handbrake mechanism to run through. So I'm going to change it around obviously to do that. So I want to get this centre nut off. As you can see, that's a new nut as well, it's a nylock. I'll get that undone. Hopefully this won't put up too much of a fight if I get a puller on it. Just pull the end off, and then we can just undo those 4 nuts. I'll probably undo the brake pipe as well. You can hear that creaking. I've got a load of wood here. You'll see that in a future video for something else. That's going off on a tangent. Anyway, we'll undo those 4 bolts, rotate it round, bolt it back up again, and then we need to tweak this pipe obviously to fit the cylinder back, to fit in, can't talk, fit back into the back of the cylinder. So yeah, we'll do that, and we'll come back to you in a second. Right, I thought I'd do a bit of this live rather than time-lapsing it. Let's see if this comes undone. Hopefully this little impact gun I've got now will help us out. Right, yeah, lovely. That's that bit off. Right, now these little hubs were an absolute nightmare to get off the very first time I did it, because obviously they've been on there for about 1 billion years. So let's see how easy they come off this time. They've been off once. They're on a taper, which obviously makes it a bit more difficult. Hopefully this puller didn't have this puller when I first did. I actually had them in a press and all sorts to try and get these off, so I'm just praying they're going to come off easy. This is why I haven't done this job, because I didn't want to do this. I'm hoping it might be alright because it's been off once before. Right, I've wound it out far too much now. Hold on. And weirdly enough, this puller, for whatever reason, is an 18mm nut, which is a bit strange. So I've got the adapter on the gun to go into a smaller socket on an 18mm. Please just pop off, please. I'm begging you. Right, I've got all 3 legs in there. Thought that was going to be the case. It may take a bit of persuasion. The impact gun hasn't got the gusto to do it, so let's try winding it a bit more and see if it pops. I found before, if I put a bar or a drift on there and shocked it, it did actually come off. So I'm going to get a bit of pressure on this. I think I'm going to do that again if it don't go. This puller's pretty substantial. I didn't say I didn't have this puller before, so I'm hoping it might just clonk it off. Right, I've got some pressure on that now. Quite a bit of pressure, in fact. So I'm going to get a, as I say, a drift, and we'll give that a tap. Stay there. Let's hope this pops off. Got a long bolt that I use for things like this. Right, so now, before I hit it there, which is right where the taper is. Let's see if shocking it does it. Really want to chip your paint off, to be honest with you, but never mind. What I can do about it, unless I go behind. Try going behind. Nope, didn't do anything. What if I tap the end of the puller? Absolutely nothing. This is the problem I had before, and these have probably been back on here for probably a couple of years, I suppose. So chances are they're rusted on again, or whatever they've done. Yes, it went. Brilliant. There you go. Superb. It's got a wood rough key in there, you see, as well, so that obviously aligns it and locks it on. So that's great. Brilliant. I wasn't expecting that to happen. So now we can get those 4 bolts undone. I'll undo the brake line and we'll turn it round. That is absolutely superb. I'm really chuffed about that. I did not think that was going to go for a minute. I might put a little bit of don't know, a bit of grease or something on there just to aid it in future if I ever have to take them off for any reason again. But yeah, right, I'm going to go and let's see what size nut that is. Hang on, I might have the socket here for it. 1/2 inch, do we reckon? Oh, look at that, perfect. Right, the only thing I haven't got is a spanner to do that brake line with. Let's undo that first because I don't want to anything to turn against otherwise. 11mm, do we reckon? Oh god, I'm on a roll today. Look at that, straight on it. Wish every day I'd go like this in the garage. Right, so that is the brake line undoing. If both of these go like that, I'd have done this ages ago, but I've been absolutely dreading doing this. I did not think they were going to come undone. When Dan said to me, "No, your brakes are ran the wrong way," I was like, "What?" My heart sank. Right, let's get these off. Get them all loose to start with. So yeah, I don't know why the Regal restoration manual shows them around this way, because Dan's even gone to the point of going to, like, when he's been to different museums and seen a Reliant in there, he's always had to look under the back to see what orientation they're in, to see whether he was right or I was right. You know, every single one he's ever seen has been the way he's done it, if that makes sense. So anyway, here's what it is. It's unfortunate, but it won't take. Now I know that I can get these off, it's not so bad. I can do it and get it back together again. Where'd that washer go? There we go, it's all off. Look at that, that was really easy. I was not expecting that at all. Right, where's that washer? There it is. Right, that's on the floor. So this has got to go. I'm just looking, I put a little bit of seal around that. I don't think I needed to. There's a gasket on there. This has got to go that way round, I believe. So it's got to go round one bolt hole effectively. I'm going to double check that in some photos. And I'll come back to you in a second just to clarify that, but I'm pretty sure that that is how it's supposed to go. Like that. So I'm going to check that and I'll come back to you. Right, things have escalated somewhat, as you can see. I'm on the driver's side now and I've got the whole half shaft out. And the reason for that is, I spoke to my old mate Dan and he said that not only had I had these around the wrong orientation, I had them on the wrong side. I didn't know they were sided. Now, that other hub came off really easy. This one, I have been on it for a good couple of hours now and it will not budge, so I've ended up taking the whole half shaft out with the plate on it. There goes a brake part, never see that again. And I'm going to swap the half shaft with the other side and put the whole lot in the other side so that it's all on the right side. So that is what I'm doing now. So I've got everything disconnected, massive mess in the garage as per usual. Lucky I didn't fill the axle up with oil before, so that's good, it hasn't leaked out everywhere. I've got to make some new gaskets for the end of these. Now I've pulled these apart, which go on those little plates on the back there. As you can see, I've got new bearings in there. I did all this before I started YouTube. So I suppose this is a little bit of a refresher for you guys more than anything else. So you can see what I've done previously. I think the gasket on this side, I don't know where the gasket's gone on this side. I don't know which side it's stuck to. The other side ripped off, but this side I don't know where it's gone. I think it must still be on that plate. Yeah, it is. Parts of it are on that plate. So I'm going to have to try and clean all that off and make up some new gaskets for that. So that's going to be marvellous. So what I'll do, I'll get some gaskets made and I'll come back to you, I don't know when I've got this going back in the other side, I guess, and hopefully we'll get it around the right orientation. Got to put the brakes and everything back in because I had to take this side off with the half shaft. I had to take the brakes off to get to the bolts because obviously that hub's in the way. So looks like I'm going to have to do a little bit of paintwork on that hub again because I've knocked the hell out of it trying to get it off and it just would not budge. So we'll have to do a little bit of remedial paintwork on that once it's back on. Yeah, so there we are, that's where we're at the moment. I want to carry on and hopefully when I come back to you next I'll be back on the other side putting it back together again. Rightio, as you can see there now, I've got the other side back plate on this side. I've flipped this shoe round so it's the right way. So you've got one with a smaller piece of metal showing, one with a bigger piece of metal showing. That is how it's supposed to be, according to my old mate Dan. So there we go, that is how his one was when he took it apart, and that's how Stobart was, and the other trotter vans we've worked on as well. So I've got that all round the right way now. I've managed to make the brake line just about fit under there. So I hate having wonky brake lines, so I might have to change that at some point, but do plan on possibly changing this axle out for a Robin one later in time once the van's been on the road for a little while and stuff, because it's a better ratio for motorway speeds. This is actually a saloon axle in this. In fact, this is out of a Rebel, this axle. It's the same as a Regal Saloon, so it is a bit of a better ratio than the van one originally was, but it's still not as good as the robbing. So we have plans to change this out, and we have to modify it from one to the other so that we can fit the half shafts and the end plates and everything on the robbing axle. That's going to be a completely different project though once it's built and on the road. So for now I'm going to leave it like that. As long as it reaches the other side on the brake pipe, then we should be okay. It's still all shaped around the diff case and everything in there, so it still looks nice. So yeah, I'm going to get the hub put back on this side now, get the drum put back on, then I can button this side up and leave it alone. It's complete, and then we can go around the other side and fit that side back up so that it is all back together how it should be. Let's carry on. Right, after a bit of fiddling, it's a lot more difficult to get the brake shoes back on with this axle hub on there. But anyway, it's all back together, as you can see there. It's all looking absolutely marvellous. Shoes are around the right way this time. The orientation of the plate is obviously around the right way this time. So I just need to put the drum back on there now. And then I think what I'm going to do next, as we're on the back brakes, is I'm going to sort out the linkage for the rear handbrake, which actually I've got to make 2 new rods for, because the original ones were rusty and one of the ends snapped off. So I've actually got some stainless steel rod to make up some new ones. So let's get on the workbench and we'll make up 2 new ones of those and hopefully get all this connected up. Let's carry on. Right, I'm trying desperately to keep this workbench clean, but it's not happening. Anyway, these are the 2 handbrake rods. As you can see, they're quite heavily pitted, and unfortunately when I tried to undo the end on this one, it did snap. So I've got a nice new piece of stainless steel rod here, as you can see. I want to get this cut to length, so it's the same length as these ones. Then we can thread the ends of it, put a new thread on the end of that, and obviously then just screw our ends. Well, I've got to sort this end out, but we can screw the ends on and get these fitted onto the van. So I'll get you set up on a tripod, and we'll get this done as quick as possible, hopefully. Rightio, as you would have seen from that bit of time lapse there, I've got the rods cut to length, and I've got a 1/4 inch tap in my tap tool there. So we'll get this clamped in the vise like that, and hopefully it should be fairly simple as to find a nice new tap on here, assuming that this rod is the right size, because obviously I bought it to match that one. Yep, that's starting off there nice, so that's good. Obviously when you do the tap, make sure you want a little bit of oil on it really. Put a bit of 3-in-1, that'll be it. Just to aid it going on. And also obviously when you do it, go backwards and forwards so that it takes a little bit off, and when you wind it backwards again, it gets rid of the bits of shavings and metal straight away. Hopefully should create a nice thread for our end to go on. Plenty of oil obviously aids it, especially with this being stainless steel. It's a bit harder to tap. You want to keep it well lubricated, otherwise you'll have all sorts of problems. Probably a bit overkill making this out of stainless steel rod, but I thought, well, I'm going to make new ones. I may as well make them out of something that's not going to rust again, because then I've never got to worry about them ever again then. So, and stainless steel rod is not too expensive, so I thought, well, worth doing. You might as well do it out of that, you know. So that is what I've done. Now, looking at how much I've got to go on compared to the old one. The old one went on a quite fairly long way, so I'll do it the same amount, just so that we've got the flexibility of the adjustment that we need, if we need it. Rather it be there than not. A bit more oil. Let's see how far. Still wants to go a bit further. It's quite a long thread on that. I don't know whether they actually need it as long as that, but we'll keep going, just because it will match then. I want to come right the way off now, just to clean the whole thread up. I might use a little bit of WD-40 just to clean the threads out. Give it a blast. Cools it down as well. Obviously the more times you go over it like this, the nicer it makes the threads, because it cleans them all out. Go up and down it a few times like that. In theory, every time you do it, it should make it that little bit easier. And what I'll do, I'll give it a little wire brush out as well, just to make sure that the threads are all nice and clean. And sometimes I even go around it just with a little bit of sandpaper or emery cloth, just to take off any little burrs or whatever that's on there. You see how easy that is now. Look, now I've been up and down it a couple of times. Do it with one finger. See how far down I've got to go, if any. The last little bit's quite difficult still, because obviously I've not been right the way up there. There we go, it's easier now. Let's see that. Still wants to be in about another probably 7 or 8 mil worth of thread. So I want to carry on with that, get that all threaded. I want to do all the ends exactly the same as what you've just seen there, and then I'll come back to you. Right, there we go. As you can see there, that is the 2 rods made with all the ends on there. One of the ends I had a bit of an issue with initially because that was the one that had snapped, so off camera I've drilled that out and re-tapped it, and they all fit on there lovely now. So all we've got to do now is get those put onto the chassis. They're held on with like pins that go through these holes with like little split pins through the bottom to stop them pulling out. So I want to get those put on, and then we can move on to the next job, I think. So I've got to go and find them, that's anything, because they're in my hoard of parts somewhere, and I've got to go and find where I put them. So I'll come back to you once I've found them. Right, there we go. As you can see there, I've got the 4 ends painted, just with a bit of cold zinc gal spray just to keep them a little bit protected. Not necessarily really needed, but I thought I'd just do it because it makes it look nice, and everything else is painted. So they're drying. We'll hang them up there on the shelf like that, and I'll show you what I'm doing over here. Now, this sender that I showed you before, I coiled up the wire, as you would have seen. I've got the gasket there now as well. I coiled up the wire because I didn't want to take the end off because it had the right connectors on it, but I don't think that's going to fit through the hole in the tank the way that is sticking out. So I've just done an experiment on the old one, cut it in half and soldered it, and it works absolutely fine. It's really strong. So what I'm going to do is I want to cut this coil out because I don't need the coil there. Just join the 2 bits of copper together, so it's just got a small short connection, which is all it needs, and then that should be absolutely fine, and then it'll fit through the tank, the hole in the tank fine. So I'm going to do that, just cut that middle section out, join it together. I'm using a blow lamp and some solder. Get one side hot, put the solder on it, get the other side hot, put the solder on it, then melt the 2 together. And it seems to be alright. So, I mean, if I should show you quickly, I'll put this in the vise. Wind that up. It's held in there now. I can actually really pull on that hard. It's not going anywhere. So there's never going to get that much tension on it in the tank, so it should be absolutely fine. As long as I get a decent connection, which there's no reason why I shouldn't if I do it like that. That is what I'm going to do with that, and then we can get that put in the tank. So I'll come back to you when I've done this. It's a bit of a fiddly job, so I'll get it done and I'll come back to you once it's done. Right, just thought I'd show you what I'm doing. I've cut the coil out and I've cleaned up the 2 ends there. So I'm going to get that on there now. I'm going to heat it up, get some solder on it on both sides, close them up together, and then heat them up, and it should be like soldering a pipe together. They should just both stick together. A bit of heat on that. Pretty hot now. So it's I want to cut the end of this off. I wanted it further down like that because otherwise it will stick out too far. I'm going to do the same with this one here. You can see there now, if I show you, both got solder on both sides. Doesn't look particularly pretty, but right, I'm going to cut the end of this one off because I don't need that bit on there, like that. And then I want to get some needle nose because they're going to be hot now. Bend that up so that it meets that one. And then what we'll do, we'll heat the 2 up together whilst holding it with the needle nose, and that should solder it together, hopefully. Like that. And just hold it there until it goes cold again. It's almost like plumbing, I think, soldering a pipe. I think that's probably a very similar scenario. Hopefully we should have a nice soldered joint. Looks alright to me. And hopefully now that will fit inside the hole in the tank, which is great. So that in theory should work. I may connect it all back up to my little battery again just to make sure before I put it in the tank, because I don't want to put it all in there and have to take it back out again. So I'll probably do that off camera and I'll come back to you. Right, I've spent a bit of time on this getting the linkages in. They will need some more adjustment. I've just got them on there for now, so you can see the pivot point in the middle there. And when you pull on this bit here, it obviously operates the brakes by those rods. That's how it works. So it's a pretty simple system. Now I've used dome-headed bolts with nylocks on at the moment because I haven't got any of the original pins to go in there. It's not a great setup, to be honest with you, as far as the original setup, so it'll probably be absolutely fine. There is a little bit of play in it on this bracket, actually, on the axle, but once the cable's in there and it's under a slight bit of tension, I think that's going to be okay. So I'm going to leave that on there for now as it is. That's absolutely fine, and I'm going to get that sender put in next. It's just held on with screws. I need to take these ones out. I've got some new ones to go in here because these ones are in there when they powder coated it. So we'll take those out. As you can see, there's a hole in the side of the tank there. Get that put back in, and it should be marvellous. Right, this is what we've got for our brake pipe, or should I say fuel pipe. It is actually used for brake pipe as well, but it is good for fuel. This is 5/16 pipe, which is basically the same diameter almost as what comes out the fuel sender. Got a piece of rubber hose because obviously I need a piece of that for both ends to join the hard line to the sender and to the pump down there. And we've got a brake pipe straightening tool here, which I did have one of, but this one comes with different size shims in it, so you can do the smaller brake pipe like we've got on the van already, or you can do this bigger fuel pipe. The one I had before only did the smaller pipe, so I've got a new one of those which has got those shims in, so I can as you take it off that reel, it'll come off nice and straight, as I can't stand having wonky brake pipes. Well, I've got a bit of a wonky brake pipe on this axle now, which is obviously where I've had to pull it slightly tighter than it was because of moving those drums around slightly, or back plates around slightly. But anyway, that's probably going to be redone at some point, so I'm not too worried about that at the moment. I'm going to have a little faff around with this, try and work out where I want it to route. I want to try and run it down the same side as the brake pipe, and then we can obviously run it into the sender at the back and the pump at the front. I'm just a bit dubious as to how close I can run it to things, because obviously without the body being on it, it's a bit difficult to know where I can run it. But as long as I can get the majority of it in hard line going down the chassis and a small piece of rubber each end, that's what I want really, because I want to try and eliminate as much rubber as I can, so I haven't got to worry about it perishing or whatever over the years. That is the plan. So I want to have a little look at this and I'll come back to it in a sec. Right, as you go, that's the tool on the pipe there. You can see I put the shims in it to the correct size, and basically run reel it off the reel and slide that on as you go, and it straightens it out. Now obviously it's going to need maybe a little bit more straightening by hand or in a vise or whatever, but it gets it near enough just so you can sort of get it off the reel without kinking it. So I'm going to start shaping this now around the chassis. As you can see, I've put a piece of rubber hose on there with a filter, and I'm going to work from the back down the frame to the front. So it's going to be a fairly time consuming job, so I'll come back to you when I've sort of fashioned something together that I'm happy with, and I'll show you what we got. Right, this has taken an absolute age, and I think I've aged as well by doing it. Anyway, as you can see, I've got the rubber line down there with the fuel filter in it, and I've then made a metal line from there going round here along the top of that rail. Unfortunately I kinked it slightly in that corner, not enough to worry about, but it's really infuriating because I was trying to keep it all nice and smooth. And then it bends down, goes down the chassis along there in clips. You can see those grey clips we've got one there. And they're not very good actually. They're the only ones I could get, and I've had to glue them in as well as them being clipped in, especially this front one. You can see the front one's got a cable tie around it at the moment. That is because, unfortunately, I drilled that hole at a slight angle and it made it a bit bigger than what it needed to be, so it wasn't staying in there. So I've put some glue, some 2-pack epoxy resin glue on the back of all of them, just to obviously make them so they don't come out. And that one in particular with the cable tie around it, because obviously it wasn't clipping in the hole that well because the hole was slightly too big. So it'll be fine once it's glued. There's not really any pressure on it as such, so once it's glued it should be absolutely fine. And obviously then what I'm going to do then is run my rubber fuel line from here up to the pump here. So it's a really short span, so I've only got a piece of rubber at the front and a piece of rubber at the back. The rest underneath the van is all metal. So obviously those two areas I needed to be rubber to join them, and also to have a fuel filter at the back there. So that should be the fuel line complete. So there, I think there's one more job on the chassis that I need to do before I can think about putting the body back on, and that is the pedals. I don't know if I'm going to get time to do that today though, because that has taken me a lot longer than what I thought it would. But there we go, at least it's done. That's the main thing. Top banana. Right then, that is going to be it for this episode on MEC-TEC. I'm afraid I've run out of time. I need to get this video edited for you so I can get it out on Friday night. And it is currently Friday lunchtime. So I need to get cracking on the editing side and get this video out. I was hoping I was going to finish off, I've started on the pedal down there. I was hoping I was going to finish off the pedals today and get the chassis basically complete. It is pretty much there. There's a few more little tiny jobs that need sorting out. The pedals being one of them, just bits and bobs really, nothing that's going to stop the body going back on now. So all the big stuff's done. Got that fuel pipe sorted out, that was quite a big job. It took absolutely ages, that did. I was absolutely, well, I was going to say pulling my hair out, but that ain't going to happen anymore. So anyway, I'm waffling. If you do like what you see, make sure you do 4 things for me. Like, subscribe, share it with all your friends, and hit the notification bell. It costs you nothing, and it really helps me out on the channel, so I would really appreciate it if you could do those things for me. Remember, I have got Instagram, mec_tech1985, and I have got Facebook, mec-tech, for little sneak peeks during the week of what I'm up to. And all there's left for me to say is thank you very much for watching, and if you want to join me soon for more automotive adventures, I'll see you again next time. Cheers guys.